Hey there, it's Olivia Spanner here from Olivia's Catastrophe, and we are halfway through the year, which means it is time to do the mid-year book freakout tag. I've had a fantastic first half of the reading year. I've read so many books, I think over 100, although I haven't particularly counted, and I've had so many brilliant 5 stars and new favourites that it was really hard to choose my answers to these questions. So I'm going to do my best to shout out some of my favourite books wherever I can, and let's get right down to the questions. The first question is the best book you've read so far in 2023, and of course it's really hard to narrow it down to one book in particular, but I've gone and chosen a book that just went above and beyond in terms of destroying my emotions, informing me about a situation, making me feel some type of way, sad emotions, hopeful. It was about identity, it was about womanhood, it was about fighting for what's right, and those are all things that I'm always looking for in a book, and that book is Know My Name by Chanel Miller. Everybody who ever recommended it to me said I was going to love it and read it and just appreciate it so much, and everyone was right. It was fantastic. I do think it's one of those books that's hard to like rate and say is your favorite because you just wish it never had to exist, but it does because it's important and because it keeps on happening, and the way that the law system treats sexual assault victims, it needs to step up, it needs to improve. It just sounds like such a grueling process, and I've recently, or fairly recently, talked about this one in my May wrap up, so I'll leave a link down below there because I don't want to get too in depth with my review of it here, but it's just one of those books that I truly think it's had an impact on me, and hopefully will have an impact on so many people. I love books where you learn something new, you feel emotions, but it also just has a really real effect on what is happening in the world, and I think that is what Know My Name is. It's such an important story. It's such an important story. The best sequel you've read in 2023, and I was looking back on all the books that I've read so far this year, and I've read 2 sequels. I've read 2 sequels that I gave 5 stars. 2 sequels I've read that I've given 5 stars, which doesn't mean I read a lot of mediocre sequels, it just means I don't really read that many sequels overall. So between those 2, I decided to pick Death Note Volume 6. It just deserves all the hype and the love. It was such a good volume. It does what a sequel should do, which is some of the volumes before have been slacking a bit. It picked up that slack, it brought the pace back again, it made it very intense. You got to see how Light and Elle are such intelligent, scarily intelligent characters that an author must have made up in his brain. It's just fascinating to me. The artwork is fantastic. The like black and white manga style, I just love it, and I think the depictions of the Shinigami are just so scary and creepy, as they should be. I think it had a very fascinating storyline which was slowly building across the previous volumes, but in this one it all came together. The climax was so good. I stand Misa. What a wonderful sequel. It had to get that point. So the next question is your favourite reread, and I have reread a total of 0 books this year. I haven't reread Twilight, I haven't reread Raven Cycle, I haven't reread any of my favourites, and that's largely because I'm doing a TBR challenge, which means that I'm trying to read books that I actually own, which means there's not really much space for rereading. That's fine, I'll get back to rereading next year. So instead I've decided to change this question and make it favourite book you put on pause and continued, because I've mentioned in previous videos that I do tend to sometimes pick up a book, pause it for whatever reason and continue it later, even if I'm really enjoying the book. It might just be my mood. And one book that I paused and continued and was You Made a Fool of Death with Your Beauty by Akwaeke and Emezi, and I loved it. I put this one on pause because I picked it up in a time where I wasn't in the mood for reading romance, and I also picked it up from my library on ebook, and I decided that I just love it so much that I wanted to read the physical copy. I wanted to turn those pages, and in January I gave myself the space to do it, and I loved it. This is Akwaeke Emezi's romance book. It's got a black main character and it's set in the Caribbean, or largely in the Caribbean. The main character falls for someone, like she falls for the wrong person, and she's also a widow. She's a young widow, so she's still grieving a previous relationship that she had in the past, and she's taking things slow. But when they get to the Caribbean, all the drama unfolds. Honey, you think the beginning is drama with her falling for her hookup's best friend, but then more drama happens. Oh my gosh, it is the most dramatic romance I have read. It's the messiest romance I have read. It's also the romance I've read with the most communication happening, and I just find it fascinating that a book that I've read which has no hint of miscommunication whatsoever could also be the messiest and most dramatic romance I've read. It makes me so excited. It's also such lyrical and beautiful writing. I'm a big fan of Akwaeke Emezi's works, and they have continued to carry and bring the writing style into the romance genre, so I appreciated that. I loved getting to see the Caribbean setting. Oh, it was just so good. We've got queer characters in this one, lots of bisexual characters, and I just had the best time disagreeing with all the choices that the characters made, but living for it at the very same time too. So then the next question is genre you've been loving lately, and I'm very much a mood reader, but I do think this first half of the year I've read a lot of two things, or a lot more of two things than I usually do. I've read a lot of non-fiction. I don't, like, it's not like I don't read non-fiction. I usually love a good memoir, but I'm reading so much more non-fiction than usual, and even branching out of the memoir section every now and again, which is fascinating to me. And I'm going to just take this opportunity to shout out one of the best non-fiction books I've read this year, and that is an essay collection called Things I Have Withheld by Kai Miller, which I read in January and absolutely blew my mind. Again, it's one of those books with such lyrical and lovely writing about what it's truly like to be black and gay in Jamaica, but then he also travels to the UK, so what it's like to be Jamaican, British and black in the UK. He is taking, so each essay is a title of something that he wished he had said but he didn't say for whatever reason, and he talks about the context of the situation, why he didn't say what he really wanted to say, and what this means. And it was just done so very well, so lyrical, so impactful, so much about identity and queer culture and how the intersectionality between ethnicity and queerness come together in certain ways and in certain countries, and how that manifests with nationality. Very, very fascinating. Beautiful personal essays as well. There's so much emotion written into them, and I loved it. And the other genre that I've been reading a lot of lately is cozy graphic novels. I just love a good graphic novel, and I've found these like really cutesy sweet ones just really filling the void inside me that I needed to be filled. So the one that I want to shout out here is Chef's Kiss. I read this one, I think I also read this in January. January was a very good reading month for me, and it was lovely. It's about this young man, he's done with his degree and he can't find a job in journalism, which is what he's rooting for, so he takes a temp job in a kitchen as a chef because he really likes cooking, and maybe he becomes more passionate about it than he thought. There's another chef in the kitchen that he finds really hot and very cute, and it's just so sweet. It's just so sweet. I just loved seeing all of the baking and cooking in all those bright colours. It was lovely. It was beautifully illustrated. It also had a really nice friendship that was depicted, and I fell in love with the side character who's like a black girl who does yoga and looks gorgeous in everything she wears. That friendship was really nice, and it's a lot about him finding out what he wants to do in life and kind of figuring out what he wants to do, what path he wants to follow down, what he's really passionate about and not so passionate about. And it was lovely. It was short, it was to the point, and it was very, very good. The next question is a new release you haven't read yet and want to get to. So I'm actually going to mention 3 here because that's just me. I could not think of like only one. There's a lot of books I'm excited for, but one release that's recent is Lore Olympus Volume 4 by Rachel Smythe. I've really been enjoying these Lore Olympus graphic novels, which are retellings of Persephone and Hades, but kind of set in a bit of more of a contemporary time, and the artwork is stunning, so definitely want to get to that graphic novel. A book I was also recently sent for review is Sing Me to Sleep by Gabi Burton, and this is a young adult fantasy, I believe, or maybe it's an adult fantasy, I'm not sure, but it's a fantasy book with a black main character who is a siren luring men to her death, and she ends up being a guard to a prince as she tries to hide who she is, and she gets sent or tasked with finding reading The Siren That Is Killing the Men, which is herself, which just sounds fascinating, and any like black mermaid, black siren books I will read, and I've been back in the mood for fantasy lately, so I'm very excited to get to that one. And then the last one I'm excited for, I had to throw in a middle grade fantasy here because I've been loving the genre, and that is Nick, Blake and the Remarkables by Angie Thomas. I'm a long time fan of Angie Thomas's books. She's written a middle grade fantasy. Yes, please, I want to read it. I have it on my shelf waiting for me. I need to get to it. So up next we have most anticipated release for the second half of the year. Just like probably everybody else, my answer is Heartstopper Volume 5. I'm so happy we get another volume, and it's not the last volume. I'm also excited for Heartstopper season 2. I don't know when that comes out, but whenever it does, just give me more Heartstopper. Again, sweet, cutesy, graphic novel, filling the void in my heart. Yes, please. Ooh, biggest disappointment. So I've had a few disappointments this year, but one of the biggest disappointments, I don't think the biggest disappointment is necessarily the worst book you've read. I often see biggest disappointment as a book you had really high hopes for and it let you down. And I had really high hopes for, and it also was a very like mediocre book, and that is Our Wives Under the Sea by Julia Armfield. To me, it sounded like it was going to be a bit of an annihilation horror-esque story with a bit of literary fiction thrown in and some good themes and sapphic, whereas what I actually got was like a very plain Jane literary fiction that tried to do some grief storyline but really failed at it, that tried to do the controlling relationship but didn't manage to fully pull it off, and strange things were happening, but the suspense around the strangeness and the creepy atmosphere didn't really go anywhere by the end of it. So I was just disappointed because I didn't get creepy, I didn't get sad, I didn't get even like immense sapphic vibes from it. So it was just like, yeah, they're wives, but we never really got to see their relationship when they were together, because it's kind of, their relationship is told in flashback. So the whole thing, it just disappointed me on every front. There were multiple avenues, multiple reasons why I was looking forward to the book, and none of them were served to me. Biggest surprise, oh my gosh, this book series, should I say, came into my life and completely surprised me, and that is the pre-series by Sarah Simone. Especially the second book, Sinner by Sarah Simone, which I rated 5 stars and was a new favourite. This trilogy came into my life in January and it stole a week. It stole the whole week of my life. I did not think about anything that was not this series. I did not want to do anything that was not reading this series. I even read one of the books in a single 24-hour period. I just had so much fun blazing through the trilogy, but the biggest surprise was the second book in the series, which I adored. Head over heels adored. It's also an age gap romance. It's also like a nun meets normal person, like civilian romance. It's super steamy. It's just super steamy. It ticked all of my boxes, and it also had a grief storyline in there that I thought was really well done and really well developed. So that series just stormed into my life and really took me by surprise. I also think it also takes me by surprise when the second book in the series is better than the first, and often when I don't love, or when I have some gripes with the first book in a series, I'm very quick and easy with letting the series go there and cutting it off and not continuing. But surprise, surprise, I decided I was going to read book 2 anyway. And then I loved it even more, so it was worth me continuing. I was just surprised at every single turn by this series, and it was a very good time. Favourite new author, debut or new to you? So this was really difficult for me because of course all the non-fiction books I read this year have pretty much been new to me, but I was trying to think of fiction books, and I've actually been picking up a lot of books by authors I've read before, or authors where I just want to read one of their books and this one sounds good. So I haven't read many books by the same author that is new to me. I've been continuing to pick up more Akwaeke and Emezi. I've been continuing to pick up more by an author I know I like, but I haven't picked up multiple books by a new to me author. So instead I'm going to be answering this with not a favourite, but an author who I've tried for the first time. I really loved this first book and I'm looking forward to reading more of their work. That's how I'm interpreting it. And I'm going to go with Alexe and Farol Follmuth, who is a pen name of Olivia Blake, because of her young adult contemporary romance book, My Mechanical Romance, which I absolutely adored and think is just one of the best young adult contemporaries I've read this year. It did a very good job of talking about what it's like to be a female person of colour in a like STEM subject and pursuing it at a young adult teenage level. It talked about some of the microaggressions you face in a lot of detail rather than about the bigger topics that you face, and I think it's equally valid to talk about those microaggressions which add up and contribute to being a big blockage or a big limit to women excelling in the ways that they are capable of and should be doing. We also just had the cutest couple. Tio and Belle deserve to be together, and I'll ship them to the end of days, and I really liked how much they both had to grow individually and tackle some of the same themes and issues but in very different ways for each of them. It talked about family, and some of the family complications in this one are quite difficult. Some of the friendship relationships are changing and morphing, which is what happens when you grow up and you're approaching that university split and age. And it's a lot about what you do when you succeed and fail, especially as they're all coming towards their exams and the end of school, and they're doing these robotics competitions, which I actually found really suspenseful and interesting. And it's about the ways in which you can succeed and fail in small ways and in big ways, and how you can handle that. Really, really well done, and it balances all of these topics very, very well with having a cutesy romance in there too. Very, very good. And while I originally was not as interested in Olivia Blake's fantasy books, reading this young adult one and loving it this much has made me really want to try more of her work. We have newest fictional crush, and I usually always have an answer for this, but I just haven't been reading that much romance. I think romance has fallen by the wayside because of the fact that I've been reading non-fiction and I've been in the mood for like other types of books, so I haven't had that many ships that are new to me this year where I have wanted to be with the male main character. It's more so that I think they're perfect for each other, like Tio and Belle. That's also young adult for starters, but where I ship them as a couple but I don't ship me with the person. So I'm again changing this question, and I'm gonna be like newest favorite ship, and even then it's not new to me because it's a sequel, but The Mysteries of Thorn Manor by Margaret Rogerson. Oh, I like shipped them when I read the first book, and I thought they were a good couple, and I thought it was a good book, but I loved The Mysteries of Thorn Manor even more than A Sorceries of Thorn, and it was only by reading this sequel novella that I realized how much I love that couple together and how much I love their individual characters. They just complement each other so very well. I love that she is the one who is like super tall, she's super strong, she adores her weapon, she eats a burger and decimates it in minutes. Like, she has all of that, but she's also just so loving and caring and gentle and really there for him as he's working through his mental health and some of the trauma that he's experienced. And then he is just like this wizard with all of these magical powers and so advanced in that area of life, and he understands all of this complicated wizardry and history and like the social dynamics that you've got to go through, the social politics, and yet he's still really struggling to like articulate his feelings, and he shows his feelings, and she has such a good way of understanding how he shows his feelings even though he doesn't always articulate them and word them. And I just think it was beautiful to see in this book how they complement each other, because it's not like Margaret Rogerson is reversing the trope where the woman is more masculine and he's more feminine and gentle, because they both equally have different kinds of powers that are strengths, and not only in the fact that she mastered weaponry and he mastered wizardry, but also in their relationship, in how they communicate and how they interact with each other. And I loved getting to see that. I loved getting to see that blossom and see that courting situation that they go through in this, with all of that being discussed. I don't know how to word it, but it was just such a great relationship and such great character building. New favorite character, and there are lots of characters that I've loved so far this year, but I had to go with Ren from the graphic novel Project Nought by Chelsey Furedi. I loved this sci-fi futurism graphic novel with time travel and lots of representation. It's super queer. We've got some wheelchair users in there. It was fantastic. I don't know why I'm singing through explaining that all to you, but I had such a good time with this book, and Ren was the main character, and I loved him because he is the character that you would typically find as the side character, but he gets to be in the spotlight in this one. It's all about him, and he's so gentle and indifferent. He's not the underdog where he's a reluctant hero, but he's the underdog where he's like, I don't understand why this is happening to me and I have to deal with it, but I don't actually want to step up because I don't have the confidence to do that, but I will, because that's the right thing to do and we need to do that. And I don't know how Chelsey Furedi managed to do it, but it's in a way where it doesn't feel like the reluctant hero and it doesn't feel like he's just fulfilling obligations. We know that he cares, we just know that he is scared doing so. We just know that he would rather not do so if he didn't need to. It felt very well balanced and I just loved his character. I loved seeing him. His development is quite quiet. The way that he grows into himself is quite quiet. You wouldn't leave the book and think he's the most confident ever now, or he always knows how to do the right thing. You can very much see that he's still figuring things out as he goes along the plot, as he meets all these different characters and he's in a world where it's not his time. It's not his time as in there's time travel involved in this book. You can see that he's not comfortable, but he learns to find a new compass. He learns to find a new way of finding comfort. He learns to find a new way of being brave that might not look like everybody else's way. We need to see more powerful but quiet characters still. A book that made you cry, and there's literally no book because I'm not a crier when I read. I do think one of the books that made me the most sad and devastated was Know My Name by Chanel Miller. But I'm gonna go with the next book that also made me want to cry internally. And it is also non-fiction again. I think there's nothing more devastating than what people are really going through, and that is The Archaeology of Loss by Sarah Tarlow, which is about her being a carer for her husband who has an undiagnosed condition that spirals rapidly. She steps into place as a carer, and it's not a spoiler to say because it happens at the very beginning and it's kind of what the whole book is about, but the husband decides to end things and take his own life and not require care anymore without her knowing about it. Whew. And then it goes back to the beginning and it talks about what it was like when his conditions came on, what their relationship was like at the time, how she went on being a carer and a mother and a wife and someone who works full-time at the same time, the stresses, what she had to go through, the fact that his condition stayed undiagnosed for a very long time and the doctors could not figure out what's happening. There's a lot packed into this book, and it also does talk about like euthanasia and grief as well. She's an archaeologist too, which means she frames this whole thing in looking at the patterns in history and some of the fossils in history that have to do with grief and death and society and how we deal with those emotions and mental health. It is a lot. It unpacks a lot, and even though a lot of it is like largely the story that we read is about her and her husband when he's still alive, there's still so much sadness, there's still so much loneliness, there's still so much emotion within this non-fiction book, and it can't be ignored, it can't be overlooked, and it is quite devastating. So I'd say this is one of the saddest books I've read this year. We're flipping to the book that made you the most happy, and I do think the books that made me most happy I've already mentioned here, but to be able to mention another one that made me very happy, I would have to go with Fireborn, Phoenix and the Frost Palace by Aisling Fowler. This is the sequel to Fireborn, which I read last year. This was the other sequel that I gave 5 stars to. I just needed to mention it because it made me so happy to love a middle grade sequel this much. It's literally put it on my radar as one of the best middle grade series that I've ever read, along with Artemis Fowl and Percy Jackson and the likes. It's just so much fun, and I think it deserves even more love than it already gets. You've got found family, you've got so many fun adventures and battling all of these magical creatures. The world building is impeccable, but also there's a storyline around her past and her grief which is really, really well done, and I think one that lots of children, if they've lost someone close to them, would be able to really appreciate seeing. And it also talks a lot about what it means to be brave, what it means to be strong, and what it means to be a team member. I think it's really impressive with middle grade fantasy storylines when the plot manages to surprise me, a full-grown adult reading the book, and I was surprised by this plot, and it did take twists that I didn't expect, and I really appreciated getting to see it. It was just the perfect sequel to what was a really, really good first book, and I'm looking forward to seeing how it progressed. The most beautiful book you've bought or received. I haven't bought any books this year so far, so one of the most beautiful books that I've received, I think, is Nigeria Jones by Ibi Zavoy. Just look at this gorgeous cover. It is giving Black Girl Magic vibes. I just love seeing a black girl front, and also the style of it, how it's been done, it just looks like a work of art. So what books do you need to read by the end of the year? I've got 3 for this list. I would really like to finish the Death Note series. I've been reading it very slowly over, like, I feel like more than 1 year now. I think it's been like 2 or 3. I'm very bad at reading sequels. It takes me a long time. I'm very much a standalone gal, so I'm very much looking forward to just finishing the series. I've got 6 more volumes to go. It's very doable. I've got 6 more months. Olivia Savannah, just do it, just get with it. I would also like to start the Tokyo Ghoul series. I keep telling myself I want to finish Death Note and then I'll start Tokyo Ghoul, but I could just start Tokyo Ghoul. I don't have to wait. So I'd love to really like read the first few volumes of that one. And then last but not least, last year I kept telling everyone I'm gonna read The Turn of the Screw by Henry James. I'm gonna do it. Lo and behold, I still have not done it, so I need to do that. So the next question is favourite video or post that you've done this year, and I'm going to mention a few just because I feel like I should, okay? I'm going to take the time to do this. So the video that I'm happiest with that I've posted this year, like my #1 video, is my TBR check-in, the first quarter check-in. The first quarter check-in that I did with Hannah from Ladette M. That video was just so much fun to film. That whole weekend in Oxford was a lot of fun and I vlogged it, but the video where we actually have the check-in was just so much fun. Hannah is a great friend, but also to bring that friendliness and that rivalry and our camaraderie to the screen. I say to the screen like we made a film, like to a video, was a lot of fun. My video that actually I enjoy filming the most every year is always my books by black authors with black characters recommendation video that I do in February, so it's worth me just giving a shout out to that. That is always one of my favourite videos to film, so I just need to mention it here, and please go and watch it. Please go and read books by black authors. I've compiled a list of 20 and there's recommendations for all age audiences and different types of books and genres, so go for it. Another video, I'm always proud of my discussion videos and I just want to keep making discussion videos. I've got another one in the works, another concept that I want to talk through, but my Should We Read Red Flag Romances one was one I had on my mind for a while, and I'm glad I filmed it and got it out there. And then last but not least, the video that just got the most heartwarming response to me was my This Is What I Mean video, which is one I've been thinking about making for quite a while, but I was like, oh, should I go off schedule? Should I really be making a Patreon when I don't have more time to do it? And the responses to that video have just been so lovely, and you've all been so understanding and sweet and supportive, and it makes me emotional. It means a lot to me, and the response to that video was just amazing, and so I wanted to mention it here under favourite videos. And then last but not least, it says favourite community member, and often I don't answer this question because I hate choosing favourites. I hate leaving people out, but I do want to make more of an effort to shout out to some of my favourite booktubers and friends and such, so I'm just going to take the time to do that here. Yeah, so ultimately my favourite book community members are all of you who watch my videos, who take the time to like them, who take the time to comment a long comment, paragraph, a sentence, a emoji. I appreciate you. All of those comments mean so much to me, those interactions, those views, those likes. All my patrons, I appreciate you, I appreciate you, I appreciate you so much. I do also want to shout out Hannah from Ladette M. We've been friends for a very long time, but I feel like we've grown even closer over the past year or so, so I had to mention that. And also Scott and Nell, who deal with me sending them voxes like throughout my day, just randomly like, I had this random thought, or I wanted your opinion on this book, or let's talk about something random. Like Scott and Nell are wonderful. Their channels are Book Aunt and also Gunpowder Fiction and Plot, and so that friendship behind the scenes has just been really nice. But then in terms of like not entirely new to me booktubers, because I've known some of these people for a while, but also like booktubers who I've started to watch and interact with regularly, and I feel like I'm getting to know them and I appreciate them and I like them, that I just want to mention here. Kaz from Cats and Camera, and also the Book Sanctum, and also Amelia Barlow Books. These are some new, not new channels to me, but channels I've started watching regularly. New because I've been trying to make some new friends. Thank you for being wonderful. And that's it from me. That is the mid-year freakout tag, and that took me much longer than I thought it would, but I had things to say and I'm looking forward to the rest of the year. I hope I will have just as many favourites and read just as many great books. Please let me know in the comment section down below what was the best and worst book you've read so far this year. Give this video a thumbs up if you enjoyed it, hit the subscribe button if you want to see more, and don't you forget to hit that notification bell to be updated every time I have a new video. And you know what they say, onwards and upwards. Excelsior!